Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Deputy Director Nitin Natarajan a warm welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for the chance to be here today. I've been lucky to have a very diverse career and had the opportunity to view a lot of our challenges, a lot of your challenges, from a lot of different perspectives, both that from the state and local perspective, as well as from the federal government and from the private sector. I mentioned my name is Nitin Natarajan. I'm the Deputy Director here at CISA. I've been on board since February, and it's truly been amazing to work with a great team here and to work with all of you and learn more about how we can work with you to really enhance the nation's cybersecurity. You know, CISA really focuses as a nation's cyber and infrastructure defense agency, and we're kind of uniquely positioned to make that difference in the nation right now in an administration and with a nation that recognizes that cybersecurity is a national security imperative and a priority for all of us. We here at CISA really have two main roles that we focus on. One is to serve as the operational lead for federal cybersecurity within what we call the Federal Civilian Executive Branch, and as the national coordinator for critical infrastructure security and resilience. And all that critical infrastructure is sitting in your communities throughout the nation. You know, we try to lead the national effort to understand and manage both the cyber and the physical risk to our critical national infrastructure. And recognizing that really that kind of Venn diagram between what was cyber and physical is overlapping more and more. I think that, you know, if we look 10, 15 years ago, there was a pretty broad there was a space between, right? And now, and as we go into the future, that overlap, that Venn diagram is just going to get greater and greater. Our job here is to really take some of the biggest challenges facing both government and industry, from securing large federal networks to responding to incidents of private organizations and securing our election systems and kind of everything in between. We help our partners strengthen their own capability through our efforts to understand and advise on cyber and physical risks to the nation's critical infrastructure. You know, I think we spend a lot of time in our organizations looking at risk identification. And once we identify those risks, we spend a lot of time on risk mitigation. And we try to talk through what risks can we actually buy down. What I don't think we do is spend enough time on that third leg of that stool, right? Which is any risk we identify and we are unable to mitigate, and we can never mitigate all risks, we're accepting. To me, that third leg of that stool is risk acceptance. And I think often we ignore that risk acceptance piece. So what we want to do is help kind of share that information and let people learn from others and collectively try to make sure we're identifying those key risks. Smart cities and building back better really includes digital transformation that inevitably and will inherently include cybersecurity. And the more that we can build that cybersecurity up front into what we do, the more safer our networks and our capabilities are going to be. And we can only accomplish this mission through a strong collaborative partnership with industry, the federal government, and the tens of thousands of state and local governments throughout the nation. I always use the term state, local, tribal, territorial as four very different words. I think each of those four entities face four different sets of challenges. And even within those buckets, there is a diverse set of challenges that are faced by each of those partners. And we want to work with all of you to learn how we can best support all of you in the efforts as we go forward. It's why we're focused on collaboration and information sharing with all of you. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, and I want you to partner with us. CISA relies heavily on teamwork and partnerships because we know that collaboration is the key to our collective success and that we cannot do this alone. Every day, we kind of ask ourselves, how can we work together to build resilience across the nation and internationally with our partners around the globe? And really, it comes down to cooperation, information sharing, and action are central to that ability, both in the public and the private sectors. And we know we can't do it alone, and we need to work together to get there. And we've seen this in the aftermath of different events. I've been here since February, came in during SolarWinds. We've seen the Pulse Secure campaign, the Colonial Pipeline attack, JBS Foods. That list just goes on. And we need to work together to build our nation's resilience against these types of attacks, to build our cyber defenses so that we can be more resilient as a nation, especially in today's interconnected world, because we're depending on cybersecurity every day. I like to joke that everything is connected to the internet. People's refrigerators today are connected to the internet. Mine isn't. I'm really not sure why people connect their refrigerator to the internet, but those capabilities exist. And I think as we go into the future and as we look at where we're going to go with technology and capability in our homes, in our day-to-day lives, that's only going to continue to increase over time. We have really kind of three strategic goals when we talk about a lot of our engagements, especially at the local level. is looking at that collaboration. First, we want to defend against urgent threats and hazards. So how do we create a network and the capability to understand that collaborative risk management approach? How do we prioritize those top and urgent risks? Because we can't. I want to talk briefly about engagement with the private sector. And as we talk about our engagement with various levels of various entities in the public sector, it's critical that we continue to engage with the private sector as well. And we definitely encourage all of you to have those discussions at the local level with the private sector partners. We can help facilitate some of those connections if needed as we go through. We really want to look at how we can significantly disrupt criminal use of cyberspace, really by encouraging our partners to build these relationships, to improve intelligence sharing and information sharing, and really look at tackling that threat landscape, because we know that the threat landscape is evolving, it's maturing, and we're dealing with very complex threat actors. I want to talk briefly about ransomware. We really think about ransomware across kind of 4 lines of effort. One, how do we disrupt ransomware operations and their payment schemes? How do we take the fight to the enemy, which requires our intelligence, law enforcement, and military working together? How do we harden our targets? By making our systems more secure. And that's really where CISA is focused, as how we can make sure we can harden those systems. And then how do we raise awareness and training of IT as that first line of defense against phishing campaigns? I'm a firm believer, if somebody's going to give me $1 million, it's not going to be via email. No one's going to send me an email link and get that. Someone's going to show up to my house with a really big cardboard check, and that's how I'm going to get my $1 million. How do we increase that index of suspicion? How do we have people trained to really look at this? And I think a lot of folks look at our next generation and feel confident that our next generation is very tech savvy, and they're going to look at this. And I know I see a lot of 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds on iPads, but I think they're tech savvy from an IT perspective. I don't know if we're doing enough to get them cyber savvy, right? And how do we get them to understand cybersecurity built into that? And I have kids in high school, and as I look at them, I think they're very tech savvy, but I'm not sure they're as cybersecurity savvy as I would like, and not for my lack of trying. I think. How do folks get our help? I think, we do have a lot of staff out in the regions. We have over 500 people sitting in regional offices throughout the country. And we want you to engage with them. We want to make sure that we can connect you with the partners on the ground who are living and working in your communities, who can bring our resources to bear. And whether that's our activity alerts, whether that's the emergency directives that we share, that we enforce with the federal government, we encourage all governments actually to look at our emergency directives and strongly encourage to follow similar procedures. We only mandate it on the federal side, but we encourage all to kind of follow, or through a lot of our voluntary programs and services, our tools, our resilience services, our capabilities. So we encourage folks to take use of all of our capabilities and services. We have a services catalog on our website. That's kind of a menu of things to choose from. And it's a great place to go to get some of that insight to understand how we can work together. Again, whether that's risk and vulnerability assessments, risk mitigation activities, training, such as our Cyber Essentials, which is really helping small and local governments to understand the impacts of cybersecurity practices. So we really want folks to connect with us and let us know how we can help all of you as we move forward. I know a lot of folks, when they talk about working with the federal government, get a lot of concerned about what information will be leaked or will be shared out. I can assure you that by law, we cannot divulge individual local government cybersecurity postures. So as people work with us, we want folks to realize that they're working in a trusted environment where we can work together collaboratively to tackle these complex issues, but that you can work in a safe environment where we can talk honestly about vulnerabilities and really focus on the outcomes of how we're going to fix them as we go forward, and again, kind of increase our resilience. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see a robust partnership, hopefully, between CISA and our local governments. I've personally had the opportunity to visit a number of local partners, hoping to do a lot more of that during my time here. Had a chance to talk to state and local CIOs and CISOs, had a chance to talk to state and local legislators as well about cybersecurity, and really want to help all of you, tell the story more effectively and work with all of you as we go forward. We really, at the end of the day, want to raise the cost, the time, and the complexity for successful attacks against our state, local, tribal, territorial government partners, and to point out that to the point where they even exceed the capabilities of our most advanced threat actors. We sit at this unique position in the middle of a lot of our partners, whether that's security researchers, law enforcement, the intelligence community, the private sector, state and local governments. We want to help kind of bring all those partners together to tackle these complex issues with you as we move ahead. I want to conclude my remarks by asking you a couple of things. One, to partner with CISA. We want to be your partner. We want to work with you as we do this. And if you're a local government and you haven't already joined the .gov domain, I definitely encourage you to do that. We took over the .gov top-level domain a number of months ago from GSA. One of the first things we did was actually remove the fee to entry. We wanted to try to eliminate as many barriers to entry as we can, and it'll allow you to ensure that your communities are getting their government information from a trusted and safe source. Encourage you as our local partners to tell us the problems you're facing and how CISA can help and assist you in solving these problems, because we do need a whole nation approach as we move forward on this. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Looking forward to the Q&A when we get to that, and I will turn it over from here.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor Lily May, and welcome to the city of Fremont. And I don't have any fridge here, so I'm not worried about that being an issue. I was going to share some slides, but I'm trying to figure out how would I do that from here. I did want to share a little bit of background because when I saw some of the questions that came up, as a mayor right now, I know many of our cities are facing these challenges and worries about cybersecurity. And I also am a mother of youth. I saw some of the comments earlier about millennials and things. So part of it is also educating our community. Just to give a little bit of background, I myself started in technology and have a lot of interest in that. And as a mayor and looking at some of the technology companies and services that are provided, we're looking at ways that we can help strengthen that. And thankfully, with our CTO and other members of our team, we're looking at how to bring forth some of these areas. So some of the things that we work on right now and continuously are working on communications of cybersecurity trends and issues and best practices with our staff. But we want to work and focus on developing cybersecurity policies to support the needs for all of our staff. And that includes conducting trainings and creating awareness so that they can be equipped with this needed skill set. And I definitely echo, and I saw some of the comments about educating our youth and working closely with our school districts and other entities to provide those opportunities. That's one of the things that we are very fortunate in Fremont to have access to a lot of great educational institutions, such as our local school district, our community colleges, and building the robustness in these types of programs. It's not just using street smarts, it's using common sense and situational security awareness. And we're preparing our staff to do the same. Some basic things like, for example, on even things like phishing schemes, the mayor will not be asking you to buy hundreds of dollars of gift cards. So that's probably not a legitimate request. And it's also about educating people on awareness of things like even downloads of software, so they don't realize maybe at the same time that while they're doing that, they may be compromising their system. So it's about preparing our staff to do the same things: physical and software security, firewalls to help the city's network. And I know there's concerns about data confidentiality and securing against malicious attacks, social engineering, and phishing emails. Other things that are important for us is having a proactive patch management approach by maintaining continuous information systems and devices and patching processes to remediate vulnerabilities and ensuring city assets are not susceptible. And that requires things like planning in terms of having backups and redundancy in terms of protecting against vulnerability exploitations. It also helps us if we're maturing real time in terms of understanding the visibility of our city information city's information system assets. Recently, we launched an open data hub to allow our community members to have more access, because that's important for us, whether it's getting to know our council, getting to understand the budgeting process, and to have some more interactions. It has been more critical than ever right now in this period of COVID, where people aren't be able to get the face-to-face interaction, the services that we need to be able to pivot at this time period and to provide some more robustness. And that's really generated some better interactions from the community. We updated our master park plan for the first time in 25 years, and we've created apps that allow people to integrate some of their daily lives into some of their feedback with us. But that requires also continuous monitoring of behaviors that we think might be malicious and to detect those in real time. But it's a balance between those two areas. Finally, as I mentioned again, we are investing in improving our city's information systems, the data backup, and recovery of technologies. We're looking at how possibly with some of our grants that have been utilized and implemented right now for COVID responsiveness, and our nation at this time looking at investing more in infrastructure, and whether or not, when you think about infrastructure, I know there's a lot of discussion about broadband, but that also can be applied, in my opinion, to also how we respond and prepare for cybersecurity, because those are kind of interwoven in terms of providing access, but also providing the security of and privacy to the information, and also planning as a city to help plan and protect us from cyber attacks that we've seen across the nation and many other fellow municipalities. We have also been responsive in helping when we had one of our fellow municipalities attacked for their email and also for their 911 system, to work with other neighboring cities in these better practices, which I think is also equally critical. So finally, I also wanted to mention something that when I was on a panel a couple years ago with Mayor Bottoms and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms of Atlanta, and Mayor Pugh, and also the cybersecurity discussion, we talked about how important it is maybe to also invest in having some insurance policies on this. And this is important because in that moment when you have to recover, there are additional costs that are inferred from that. And so to have the ability to be able to pivot and have the support that you need and the financing to do so is why some cities like ourselves have invested in cyber insurance policies. But working with legal on incorporating cybersecurity management requirements and security assessment questionnaires in our contracts also are important for us. And when we are establishing or setting up any new service contracts, this new requirement process will help provide a standards approach in terms of holding all technology service providers, handling our cities' systems and data to a common security standards and equipment. I think that that's something, having been in a former life, I ran a trade association also in preventing counterfeit and gray marketing. And I know that's one of the things that helps. We talked earlier, I heard Nitin talk about working with some of the local municipalities and the outreach. And I really want to thank, that's one of the things I was going to say, is that we utilize standards that were set by NIST and by CISA in terms of as a source for us as a reference and education in terms of setting up our controls and our better practices. It helps us that they communicate with on the most recent trends. And I saw that just this morning in the news, how many companies are and cities are investing further resources into this area, because this is a new space where many are feeling challenged in this brand protection. And hopefully this will allow us some opportunities to build a better future and build back to a better normal. So I look forward to answering some of your questions. Again, I apologize that the PowerPoint presentation didn't quite work today, but I'm happy to share that and be able to answer some of your questions.